the result of the presidential election. And I hope you would be prepared to criticize Donald Trump and Elon Musk if you felt that it was
you know what they're going to say.
That's what a lot of people are just fawning. That is not what a rational...
Ashley Sinclair completely demolishes Eric Weinstein and this other dude when it comes to DOGE and the job that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing here with all the federal cuts and the USAID cuts. Let's see how this goes down.
Who is right when it comes to USAID? Those who think we're right to dismantle it, or those who want to see its soft power influence protected? Joining me to debate all this, Sunday Times columnist Matthew Said, author and political commentator Ashley Sinclair, and Eric Weinstein is still with us. Matthew, you've been listening to all of this, first to Eric, then to John Bolton. You wrote about this at the weekend. Has anything changed your mind?
Well, I don't doubt there's a great deal of corruption, bureaucratic empire building, woke ideology infiltrating the judgments that were made, particularly during a Democrat administration. But I don't doubt that they do good things too. And I think it is a sensible thing to have a forensic accounting for a department that does seem to have been somewhat out of control. But I hope people who critique the department also recognize the malaria programs, saving lives. And there are synergistic benefits for the American taxpayer too, in the way that John Bolton described. But I would also add that this is a trivial issue in one way. The annual budget of this department, USAID, what is it, 50 billion, something like that? The level of the federal debt is 35, 36 trillion. And if this is an existential risk to the United States, and Donald Trump has talked about balancing the budget, I see no prospect of that happening with the tax cuts. Most of the independent think tanks think he will add trillions to the deficit. The interest on this debt is something like $1 trillion a year. And unless there's a reduction in entitlements, unless there's a willingness to crack down on corrupt tax avoidance, the infiltration of Congress by lobbyists, monopoly power in the corporate sector, I don't think that this existential risk is going to be alleviated by this battle over a pretty small department, even though I think in and of itself it's worth doing.
I mean, see, that's interesting.
In other words, you got to go after the evil corporations, and also you still got to give a lot of money to the government.
Like your last words, even in itself, it's worth doing, because actually they've got to start somewhere. This is where they chose to start. Trump said yesterday, next is the education department. Elon's going to get stuck into that. Then every other department, the Pentagon, everywhere. And actually, I feel that most Americans are completely on board with this. They're like, there's clearly all sorts of crap lurking under the bonnet here, and they're going to get it out. And they're going to use these young geeks who are brilliant computer whiz kids to root out where the overspends come. Now, there are inherent dangers, which Eric, I thought, outlined very skillfully. But Ashley Sinclair, I mean, I just, if I was an American, I'd be like, yeah, get stuck into this. It's clearly the tip of the iceberg.
The American people are all for the cracked ancient scroll kid going in and dismantling all of this under DOGE. And the problem is people like John Bolton who go on here, and I'm starting to realize why Trump revoked his security clearances and called him a very dumb person, because he sits here and he holds up his award from USAID and talks about how reform was needed decades ago and did absolutely nothing. Instead, we're sending Big Bird over to Baghdad for $20 million. We have $10 million being sent for meals that are inadvertently funding and supporting al-Qaeda-backed groups in Syria. This is absurd, and the American people are tired of this. This has been terrorism, bureaucratic terrorism against the American people. And a lot of people are upset because guess what? They're going to leave the federal government and they're going to have to actually acquire marketable skills and work for a living. Because this has just been, as Mike Cernovich said, white collar welfare, and these people are making obscene amounts of money. They are in the top 5% of earners running these NGOs that are being funneled through USAID and making $400,000 a year to disperse DEI in Serbia. It's insane.
Eric, was anything that John Bolton said right? I mean, did you find yourself nodding to anything he said?
You know, you're in a situation in which he's talking about a bit of ancient history from the Reagan administration. There's been a huge change in what USAID does recently. It's always been problematic. It's become much more so. And I think one of the things people have to realize is that in part, they view this as funding the war internally on dissenting Americans. I don't think it's any accident that Elon has started here. I don't think that this thing about the whiz kids, we're starting to create this theater around what Elon is doing. Elon is very clever in making this about a monetary outrage when the deeper question about it is, why is a portion of the US government targeting non-participating Americans who don't even know that they are against this whole of society approach because nobody ever signed them up, nobody told them it was going on. And there is a suspicion that basically our federal apparatus has moved into destroying American lives for dissenting Americans. And I think that that's really the issue. You can talk about wizards and line item issues and the fairness about how people got rich, and that's not really the key thing. The real thing is that this is a hybrid civil war.
Matthew, I mean, I keep thinking to myself how much I'd love Elon Musk to get stuck into, say, the NHS here in the UK, a health system that has become consumed with bureaucracy and massive wasting of money and so on. And you just think someone with his brain and drive and vigour getting under the bonnet of the NHS could only help us. So, I mean, do you not think that there's a sort of force for good essentially here, albeit a slightly flawed one?
Yeah, the thing I was most excited about by Trump winning the last election is what they would do at DOGE. Because the British state and many other Western states are massively, radically inefficient. We can't build things, massive overspend. The NHS you've described, most of the government departments haven't had a proper audit for years. So this is highly disruptive. And I think people find it completely infuriating. The thing that you said about these departments working with the media to mark their own homework is a complete rip-off of the taxpayer. I'll give you one tiny, might seem like a trivial example, but I used to be a sports person, as you know, many years ago.
Very fine table tennis player.
Former Olympian. And there is a department, a quango, so a quasi-autonomous department of the state called Sport England, that had to try and increase the amount of participation in the UK, had a huge budget and failed miserably. So the bureaucrats changed the criteria on which they were judged, but they put it in the small print of the reports that they pump out there. But I looked through the small, as a journalist, I thought, I'm going to look through this. And I pointed it out in my column in the Times. And what do you think happened? They came back and started quibbling. And I thought, okay, I'm going to engage with the press officer here. The press officer, paid for by the state, should try and defend the waste of the state. And when I won that argument, they brought in a contractor on a very high fee to defraud us even more. Now, that in microcosm is what happens with the empire building. You know, many sociologists have talked about this. And you look at the number of regulations that keep increasing year by year, but there's no department to start, as it were, shaving away. And Musk has talked about, was it Gulliver, with all these regulations, what does he call it? Like nooses around the neck of the American economy. That is a coherent argument. But I do worry about Musk himself. Some of the tweets he's put out about the UK, which I know well, are completely fantasy. And I worry that he's not applying the empirical rigor that we see in his business to some of his political interaction. His flirtation with the far right in Germany worries me deeply. Yeah,
I mean, that's just clear. He's a curious one, Elon Musk, because I kind of agree. Like, a lot of his tweets can be very ill-informed, intemperate, or plain wrong. He's called for the British Prime Minister to be in prison, for female ministers being in prison and so on, for no good reason that's based on any evidence. Right. Which I, both Matthew and I would share a view that we think that's completely over the top and just inaccurate. However, when it comes to building amazing companies in America, or now getting his teeth stuck in to the biggest company of all, the federal government, and really crunching those numbers, I can't think of anyone better equipped to do it. So, it's not like I think everything Elon does is right, but I do think he's an unbelievable breath of fresh air to destabilizing and dismantling very, very, very restrictive, bloated, overspending government institutions.
I would agree. And I think people like Matthew, I'm so tired of the same old arguments. It's very reminiscent of Trump in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018 about the mean tweets. Everyone likes to obsess over Elon's post on X, but it's just a tired argument. And what he's doing, he was the first person to go in and say, where is all of this money going? Are we even able to audit this? Why have we not been able to pass an audit literally ever? And he is the person to go in and do the job. And he's done a phenomenal job at this throughout his companies. And many people will say, well, the federal government's not a company. It is wasting as if it is a bloated company. And he's going to do a fantastic job at getting rid of these federal bureaucrats who are doing nothing. They're getting paid for no-show jobs. And he was the first person to actually ask, where is this going? Why can't we just go in there and audit all of the data? Why don't we have one area where we can see exactly where all of the money is being spent? So I think this is going to be a net positive for the American people. And I think anyone saying otherwise and trying to redirect to his far right tweets in the UK is really just upset that he's doing the job and doing it well when nobody.
Ashley St. Clair is 100% correct there. All I care about is the job that you could do. If the actions that you take could benefit our country, that's all I care about. I could care less about the things that you are tweeting about. All I care about is your actions. And that's always been my thing with Donald Trump. All I care about are his actions. He may not always say things the correct way or to be the most politically correct or what have you, but I don't care. I didn't vote for a president to be nice and say all the right things all the time. I care. I voted for him to whip this country into shape and to better the American people. What do you guys think about that? Sound off in the comment section below. Smash that like button if you agree. Let's continue.
This issue of transparency, I touched on this earlier, but just to hone in. For example, the JFK files, or what we know about UFOs, taking the few good men analogy, in America you can't handle the truth. If it turned out that hidden in the JFK files was evidence that the CIA killed JFK, if it turned out that there are indeed a bunch of aliens being held and some of them could destroy the entire planet in 10 seconds, etc. In other words, if the worst nightmare scenarios were stuck away in these files and Donald Trump and Elon go, here you go, bang, and out it all goes, and it causes utter mayhem and perhaps even civil uprisings and so on, could America handle the truth? Is it not incumbent on governments occasionally to not tell their people the truth?
The level of non-truth telling is the issue. The easiest win for both Elon and Trump is to show that the other side, that is the traditional side, both Republicans and Democrats, cannot be trusted. Then you will rebuild trust in those who finally flung open the vaults and said, we are the ones to tell you. That is the easiest move. And to disagree slightly, I think, with Ashley, you have a situation in which the easy part is doing the disclosures. The hard part is understanding what they mean. Imagine you were in Israel, and in the wake of October 7th, you did a line item audit of the security group, and you said, I can't believe it. We're actually paying to provide low-cost pagers and walkie-talkies to Hezbollah, as well as giving them tech support. Are we out of our minds? The problem is when you're looking at all of this, you don't know what you're looking at. Now, the standard way of doing this, if you're doing a corporate takeover, is that you wait just a second, Ashley. Let me finish the point, please. Just a second, Ashley. Let me finish the point, please. Just a second, Ashley. Let me finish the point. Just a second, Ashley. Let me finish. Let me finish the point. There's a point at which sometimes a CEO goes into a new company and stands over the server rack with a can of root beer and says, oh, this is the server we need to protect, and they pour the root beer into the server. And then everybody gets the message, no, we're not kidding around. This is deadly serious, and there is nothing sacred. Now, I believe that in large measure, that is the way that Elon is going to get everybody's attention. I understand the logic of it. I have tremendous admiration for many of the things he's doing, but you're watching something that is itself not transparent. This is not clearly what's going on, and a lot of the focus on money is actually a focus on getting a hold of the data.
Yeah.
Can I make
Matthew, final word to you.
Well, a bigger point, and I really want
Actually, I'll tell you what, final word will come to Ashley after Matthew. To be fair.
I wanted to make a point to Ashley. You seemed upset that I criticised something that Musk had said. I think a lot of what Musk has done in the state, working for Trump, is good. What he did in the private sector is good. But I'm willing to criticise him if I think I disagree with something that he has said. Ditto Donald Trump. I worry a great deal about what you might call unadulterated sycophancy, where people like Trump so much that they'll agree with anything that he says. I hope that a rational person is capable of disagreeing with Trump when he does something that is wrong. Like, for example...
Why does this guy naturally talk like he's just so angry? Like he's about to go, now, if you don't shut your mouth right now, I am going to have to come over there and slap it out of you. Like, why does he talk like that?
The result of the presidential election. And I hope you would be prepared to criticize Donald Trump and Elon Musk if you felt that it was a...
You know what they're going to say.
That's what a lot of people are just fawning. That is not what a rational society does, if I may say so.
Ashley, final word to you. Are you a sycophant toady to Donald Trump?
No, not at all. I have criticized both Trump and Elon Musk where it's due. I think a lot of this, Eric, maybe they should call you. I wonder why they haven't yet to talk about this. But I really think that they're doing a fantastic job. I don't think anyone's pouring root beer over the server racks here. And I think they're going to do a fantastic job at aggregating this data so that people can see exactly where the money's been going. I don't think that we need to be led into the circle of trust, as Eric said, for the deep state. In fact, they've been deliberately hiding this from us so that they can enrich themselves. And the American people are tired of it.
Okay, and obviously, we don't know whether Eric's been asked to be involved. I strongly suspect he probably has.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sure. The thing is that, yes, you could be critical of Donald Trump or Elon Musk, but be critical of, like, the right things. There are people who, like, when Donald Trump says something and they get so outraged about it. And I'm like, guys, like, can you calm down? Or it's like, if you say, well, yeah, I disagree with Donald Trump on this, then it's like, oh, but yet you still voted for him. Yet you still support him. Like, just because I disagree on one or two things or something like that, all of a sudden, I'm supposed to hate the guy now. That's not how it works. There's no one here on earth with whom I agree with 100% of the time. I don't even agree with myself from yesterday. However, do I agree with what he's doing overall and the job that he's doing overall? The answer is yes. But some of these people here act like just because that you don't care so much about something he says and about something he does, oh, then you're a sycophant. You just go with whatever he says. And it's like, no, it's just, I don't care so much if he worded something bad or if he said this. I'm not going to get outraged by it. I want to look at the spirit of it and your intentions and your intent. And it seems to me, judging by his actions, it seems like he has the American people first in mind. And that is why I support Donald Trump. I am supportive of Elon Musk. I don't love Elon Musk. I don't hate the guy. But if he keeps doing positive things with DOGE and cutting the waste, well then, maybe with time, he'll gain more of my trust. So far, I think he's doing a pretty solid job. What did you think with what Ashley St. Clair had to say today or in these other panelists? Leave your comments down in the comment section below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed today's clip. Subscribe to my channel. You'll be helping me out a lot. I'm getting closer to 10K. I want to get to that 10K. That's the next milestone. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe. You'll be helping me out. And if you did enjoy today's content, I got a whole playlist of Piers Morgan panels from his Piers Morgan Uncensored show, along with other goodies and videos that I think you'll enjoy.